Today's episode of SRS is a part 2 of former Green Beret and CIA contractor, both GRS and Ground Branch, Tony Cowden. If you haven't seen part 1, I highly recommend you take a minute, go back, and check that episode out, because if you don't, you are missing one hell of an episode. I want to take a moment and thank all of my patrons from Patreon. If it wasn't for you guys, this show would not even be happening. Thank you for the support. You know, me and my team really appreciate it, and we love you guys. And if you can't support us on Patreon, please head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave us a review, tell us how we're doing, and let us know who you'd like to see on the show. For everybody else, I'm going to ask you a favor. We're heading into an election season. Things get weird on this platform during election seasons. You all know that. If something happens, please just go over to Twitter or X and follow me. It's Shawn Ryan 762, because we'll be putting some good stuff there as well. All right, everybody. Love you all very much. Please enjoy the show, and we'll see you soon. Previously on the Shawn Ryan Show.
I think General Wesley Clark did an interview in like 2007. Maybe 8, whatever. If you Google, YouTube search General Wesley Clark 7 Nation War, I think will get you the YouTube.
This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, we're going to war with Iraq. Why? He said, I don't know.
Wake up, man, wake up. I've been asking for help. Contact, asking for help. They don't. And I'm looking, and here comes these dudes. They're like, "Oh, opportunity." So I'm just like, yeah. You know, I guess.
Do you think we're the bad guys? Just honest question. And I've been thinking a lot about this lately.
I think there are a lot of bad people in our government.
You look at the world. And you look at all the shit that the U.S. has intervened in, and now, you know, with the way the internet and the access to information we have, it's starting to paint another picture.
Mr. Secretary, I'm talking about the misjudgments and the mistakes that have made the series which I've mentioned, the disarming of the Iraqi army. Those were judgments that were made, and there have been a series of gross errors and mistakes. Those are on your watch. Those are on your watch. Isn't it time for you to resign?
You know, some people say when they lose their buddies, why God? Or you lose your mom, why God? I've never done that, not once. My faith has never been compromised.
All right, Tony, we're back from the break. We are at your 5MEO experience.
Man, you know, so it's probably worth backing up just a little bit, talking about the Ibogaine side. Like I said, I went for my injury. I was tired of it, man. I hurt all the time. My brain, I had a headache since 2009, and there were just some days where, you know, had to hide from light and shit, and then that uptick, it was rough. So, you know, vets, Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions, that Miss Amber and Marcus Capone started, they were my scholarship, and man, what an amazing job they're doing. And so they put me on the phone with a counselor. I think I had to talk to him 3 or 4 times. Like, you had to do it before you go down there. And his name was Andrew. Awesome dude. And I'm like, hey, bro, I just want my headaches to go away. If this thing can help my brain figure out how to, you know, reroute neurons and maybe heal tissue, whatever it's doing, like, I'm down for it, because nothing else. There's been zero progress in modern medicine for brain damage, you know, the old word for TBI, traumatic brain injury. And, my SPECT scan and MRIs and stuff, you can see the damage in my brain. I mean, it's different. The tissue is damaged. Well, man, so in my head, I'm telling Andrew, like, bro, I don't have mental issues. I'm fine. PTSD is not a thing. I'm good. And we start talking, and he's asking the questions to make me think. And I'm like, okay. He's like, well, look, man, just, write down some questions for the medicine. You're going to be able to talk to it. It'll react with you. I mean, it's inside you. I'm like, okay. And we get to talking about, like, some of the endurance events I've done over the years, iron triathlons, then the 200 milers. And, like earlier, Melissa said, a lot of times endurance athletes are either running away from something or towards something. And I was a little bit of both for sure. And at the time, if you asked me, dude, why are you running a 200-mile marathon? Like, why? And my answer was, to see if I can. Was that true? Looking back, probably not. I think for the longest time, the best feelings, like, and I don't mean like the greatest feelings I had came from pain. After getting blown up, like I said, man, I don't have good coordination in my left hand, left foot sometimes. I don't know. I just felt like maybe I was just looking, you want to feel something. I think I mentioned earlier, I think I'm pretty good at convincing myself of things. Mm-hmm. If I need to, you know what I mean? Like selection. It's only 3 weeks. I can do anything for 3 weeks. That's why I passed selection. That's how I look at things. Like, if I want to do something, I will convince myself this is how I am going to do it, whatever, right? So I think, I had convinced myself I had no PTSD. And I didn't suffer from PTSD. My daily life was unaffected, for the most part, by any PTSD type stuff. So like I said, I'm talking to Andrew, and he's like, hey, I really want you to just think about your motivation for doing all that endurance stuff. I'm like, I mean, it's behind me, bro. I'm not really into it anymore. Freaking, it's just another thing I did. He's like, yeah. But every hobby that you've told me about required some sort of pain just to participate. It's like, I just want you to think about it. Okay. Well, so we go, and of course, everybody in Tijuana, Trevor Millar, who you've had on, just awesome, just an awesome bunch of people, super professional. I've never seen civilians that behave so professionally, so organized. I felt safe. And I think that's a big deal with a lot of guys with Ibogaine, is they're scared of it, right? Like, I had never done psychedelics before. Growing up, I had buds that would, drop acid or eat some shrooms. Wasn't my thing. I wasn't interested. I was too busy being really, really bad. It wasn't my thing. So Ibogaine was my first psychedelic experience, which they thought was funny anyway, because typically folks have dabbled in other things, Well, so as I got into it and started seeing the visions and seeing and feeling things, I couldn't help it. I remember I said I tried really hard not to go there with any bias. So Primo, Johnny, told me about speaking with his mom. His mother died when he was young too, right? And somewhere in the mix of things, I quit worried about my TBI and started wanting to talk to my mom. And so for your listeners that don't know, in your visions of Ibogaine, like, you can see relatives. In some cases, you see relatives you've never met, like DNA ancestral. There's a theory that memories can be passed down in DNA too. And so sometimes people report seeing their great-grandfather or talking to them, right? Having a conversation that is as real as any they ever had with them. So like I said, man, I just got it in my head that I wanted to talk to her. And then I kind of came to, and it all stopped. I mean, they had been pretty intense visions, man. I had seen what I'm fairly certain was, an angelic creature, potentially a no shit angel. I mean, I'm still under the spell of it all. So it's not like I have a clear, picture of reality, and I'm aware of that, right? That's another cool thing I thought about Ibogaine is that you can like almost turn it off and at least think. It's not like you're absorbed in it. There's nothing fearful about it for me at all. Like I didn't feel out of control. I'm not a super control freak anyway. I'm kind of like, let's see what happens type of dude anyway, So I remember, Trevor and everybody saying that after everyone settles down in their initial really high vision, their active stage, we're going to go down to one person watching you guys. And for your audience, like I said, super professional. Ibogaine can be dangerous to the heart if, to unfit people. So you're hooked up to heart rate monitors, EKG, all that stuff. And I came to and I was like, so Ibogaine can make you sick. They call it purging. Right? And after my first initial visions and stuff, I purged. And it felt like I had purged for like 5 minutes. And it had a little, everybody has their little pail. So if you do throw up, you can throw up in it. And I thought I threw up a couple of times. And I thought I threw up not long after we took the medicine. So it's capsules for the audience. And so I started wondering, did I throw up my medicine?
I had the same experience.
Oh, really? And I'm like, this can't be over. I'm not done. It's not what I came here for. So I look around and I missed the cue. There's one person there. There's only one person there. And Trevor had told us that after we all settled down and the crazy visual phase was subsided, he's like, because you move around. You guys will be moving around. You won't even know it. Not walking around or anything because people don't know. Ibogaine makes it where you can barely walk. You're like almost like a full body Parkinson's patient, right? Like you can't hardly get up and move. It's not like you're gonna get up and go play in traffic on that stuff. It must be some kind of awesome safety mechanism, right? Like keeps you from running out in the jungle and getting eaten by whatever. So again, I missed the cue, man. And I'm looking around and the young lady who was there, she was the newest on the team. Her name is Sandra. And I was like, Miss Sandra, I think I threw up my medicine. I need you to call Trevor. I think I need a booster. Because I had heard about guys who got boosters who they just didn't get enough. I was like, and she's like, she didn't speak as good as English as some of the others. And, you're whispering because you're in the room with other folks. And she's like, yeah, okay. I was like, no, seriously, you need to call Trevor. And she's like, yeah, not a problem. I'll go downstairs. Well, then I fell asleep. Can't sleep on Ibogaine, right? I wasn't asleep. I thought I was asleep. I laid back down, and so when I opened my eyes again, she's gone, and the next staff member's there. And they're on 3-hour rotations. Again, I'm not computing this. Trevor had told us all this, but it wasn't making sense to me. Tell the next guy, I'm like, hey, man. And then I remember being a little aggravated that he didn't know, right? Fire guard, right? Like, one dude's up. When you come on duty and I go off duty, I brief you up on everything I see. Well, they didn't do that. So I'm getting frustrated. I'm like, I'm telling you, right? You need it. And I'm like, what time is it? And he's like, it doesn't matter what time it is. Just back into it. And I'm like, no, you need to call Trevor. So I fall asleep again. And in my head, if you can't sleep on Ibogaine, I must have thrown it up. Well, later on, I found out that I was still pretty active when I thought I was asleep. The medicine just didn't want me to see whatever it was doing. Best explanation I got. Well, the next time I woke up, the sun's up. I can tell through the windows, even though they're pretty blacked out, that it is daylight outside. And everyone else, they're given an IV and a medicinal cocktail to help transition you off the Ibogaine, and so you can go sleep and sleep it off and have what they refer to as the gray day. And some people would call it something like a hangover. I don't know. I think you just feel, for me, it was just blah. was just tired. I didn't feel bad. I just felt exhausted. But so they're trying to give me this cocktail, and I'm telling the one of the main medical practitioners, this is medical staff for folks that are listening, man. It's, like I said, very professional. And I explained to her what's going on. She speaks good English. She goes, okay, I'll call Trevor. And I was like, thank you, you know? She comes back upstairs a few minutes later. She's like, hey, you know what? We're not going to give you the medicine. Trevor will be here in a few minutes. I'm like, great. And like I said, I keep feeling like I'm falling asleep. I'm not asleep, and I don't know it. Well, I open my eyes, and there's Trevor sitting next to me. I wish I could explain to people Trevor. Gentle, kind, wise for his age, just understanding. Like, I've never met a single person that I felt like there was zero judgment. Nothing by way of judgment from him, only understanding. So I explained to him what I thought had happened. Unbeknownst to me, he knew I was wrong. He knew it had been over an hour and a half from the time I took the medicine to the time I purged. Felt like 5 minutes to me. He knew. But he listened to me and nodded his head in understanding. He says, well, it's a little late for a booster. He's like, but I could give you another dose. Okay. Yeah, I didn't get what I came here for, so. And he's like, man, if you do, it's going to make for one hell of a long day. And I go, this is Wednesday morning. I go, I'm here through Friday. And he just smiled. And nodded in that super chill smile of his, you know. He's like, okay, I'll go put it together. So he make the dosage per body weight. So he comes back how much every time. And he holds it out, and he goes, are you sure? I just kind of looked at him, and he just smiled and nodded. He goes, yeah, you're sure. And bro, it didn't take long. that whole waiting period that you got on the first dose, yeah, there was no waiting period. It was minutes later, at least in my perception of time. And immediately started seeing. My guide was there, and he was agitated with me. Like, he asked me, what are you doing back here? And I was like, you know why I'm here. And I know you know where she's at. I'm back. I want to talk to her. I want to talk to my mother. Take me to her. Now I'm like I'm in charge. And not him, but the medicine. God said, that's not what we're doing this time. And I went, okay. It was that kind of voice. It was commanding, but full of, I trusted it. Didn't question it. Not once. It was, oh, okay. And brother, immediately, my head, where it hurts from my TBI, warmed up. I could feel it. It was hot. But I could see it. I could see that part of my brain as if I was holding it in my hands.
Wow. Those of you that have been around SRS for a while know that we take mental health very seriously here. So seriously that in almost every episode, you'll find a segment where we discuss how to improve your mental health. And part of improving your mental health is keeping your mind sharp. And part of keeping your mind sharp is giving it the fuel that it needs to balance energy, focus, cognition, and just regenerating your brain. That triggered me to go on a journey to find the supplement that supports brain health with the cleanest of ingredients on the planet. And I found it. I was actually going to start my own company and do this, but I found Laird Superfoods. I've partnered with them. Now I'm a partial owner, and I really believe in these products. Here's my favorite product. Performance Mushrooms by Laird Superfoods. Brain Fuel. can put this in your coffee. You can put it in your tea. You can drink it raw. You can mix it with their greens. You can do all kinds of stuff. Bottom line is, this is the best possible supplement with the cleanest ingredients, all sourced in the United States, that supports brain health. And here's 2 other products that I'm a fan of. Laird Superfoods Creamer. Guess what? Contains functional mushroom extracts. Put this in your tea or coffee. And most of you know I'm not a caffeine or coffee drinker, but a lot of you are, and they just happen to have Laird Superfoods coffee, organic Peruvian coffee with, you guessed it, functional mushrooms that support and regenerate your brain. Go to lairdsuperfoods.com. Use the promo code SRS. You'll get 20% off. Guys, this is the real deal. These are the finest of ingredients. Check it out. lairdsuperfoods.com, promo code SRS, 20% off. At Grand Canyon University, they believe that the military men and women are the unique among the uncommon. You fought for our freedom. Your bravery and leadership are celebrated by all Americans. GCU matches your commitment to excellence, with our counselors specializing in military benefits and over 260 flexible degree programs online as of March 2023. GCU makes higher education possible for our nation's protectors and their families to pursue your next journey. GCU salutes you. God bless America. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Private, Christian, and affordable. Visit gcu.edu/military.
And it wasn't long. It transfers from there and into my neck, because my neck took a pretty good beating from that same injury, and into my shoulder. That stuff's always hurting. And then it went to my back. And again, this entire time, and I wish I could explain it to people how high definition your visions are on this stuff. Like, what you see right now is, best I could describe, 2% of the definition of what you're seeing when the visions in Ibogaine. I don't know if you experienced something similar. It was just super high def. A lot more pixels than we have here. And my spine, and then my hip, and I have a rod in my femur, and I could feel the rod as if I was holding it in my hand. Well, there's no nerves inside your bones. I can't feel that rod, but it was as if I was holding it. Then my knee, it's a little scuffed up. Ankle's got a little thing, and I had a broken bone in my foot. One thing after the other, very sequential. And then I kind of, I guess, fell asleep again. And, dude, I wake back up, and there's Trevor in the same spot, last spot I saw him, wearing the same clothes. Only he had his puppy, his little dog with him. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hey, what's up, bro? And he's like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, oh, I go to reach to pet the dog. And apparently I look crazy because that dog was like, rah! Same dog that had let me pet her the day before. She was like, nah, dude. Like, my hair was long. It was all matted to the side of my head. I didn't know this, you know. I mean, you sweat, and when you purge, and your skin and stuff just like, it just feels like it just pushes things out of you. There's just the nastiness. And so my hair was kind of like messed up, and I looked crazy, and I didn't know it. But the poor dog was like, wow, you know. And so there's Trevor, right? As if he's still there from when I talked to him a few minutes ago. And he's like, yeah, man, just checking on you. How's it going? I'm like, yeah, you know. And so I had still not told Trevor the reason why I wanted was my mom. At this point, the whole staff thinks I'm the weirdo that's not there for PTSD, but we're seeing if it will help purely with TBI. So I didn't want to contaminate any of that. And I also didn't want him to go, hey, man, you know, I'm not going to give you another dose because you had a good trip. So I probably should apologize to Trevor for withholding. And he goes, I'm like, yeah, man, I'm good. Why? What's up? And he's like, okay, no, just checking on you, man. You've been down for a while. I'm like, what time is it? Looks at his phone. He's like, it's 4:33. The last time I had talked to him a couple of minutes ago was like 7 in the morning, 7:30.
Wow.
Almost 9 hours had gone by like that. While that whole sequencing of, the medicine working on my physical ailments. So, a couple hours later, whenever it was, 7 o'clock, I think, started getting up. They're like, yeah, come on back down. So they gave me the reuptake meds, magnesium and whatever else is in the IV. And they're like, yeah, so let's get you on downstairs. And I start coming downstairs, and there's the SEAL that I was there with a SEAL that I had known from 10 years earlier. And, like I said, I'm not a hippie, but I'm a woodsman, right? I've always appreciated nature. I love animals. I do not kill animals. I do harvest them and eat them, but I've never been like, if you kill it, you got to grill it. And that's how I was raised, right? You don't kill something and let it lay. That is a sin, right? That is a hunter's sin. And that's my way my dad raised me. So nothing is a coincidence. And this SEAL's presence turned out to be amazing for me. But later he told me my presence for him was amazing for him for odd reasons. And I'll get to both. But I get up, man, and there he is. And he's like, are you okay? And he's a big dude, man. He's not a little guy, right? He's a big dude. Big presence type of guy. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm great. Well, come to find out, man, he had been like checking on me all day long instead of like sleeping like everybody else. He's like, oh, he's, how's he doing? How's he doing? And they like had to keep telling him like, no, dude, go back downstairs. And we go downstairs, man, and he and I are sharing a room. Again, the only one sharing rooms, not a coincidence. Not in my mind. And our beds are like opposite of each other. And I just kind of plop down, still kind of, things are still moving a little bit, some sparklies and stuff. And he looks at me, he sits on the edge of his bed, and I'm like sitting there, and he looks at me and goes, bro, you look like spilled. And I go, I've never heard that phrase before, but dude, I really do feel like shit. And he's like, I don't doubt it, bro. 2? What is wrong with you? I'm like, I don't have time to answer that question right now. And I was like, I think I need to eat. I'm not hungry, but I really feel like I need to eat. He's like, bro, I felt a lot better after I ate. I'll go get you some food. Dude goes to get me food, man. And just literally like sweet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a weird way to describe another man looking out for me. But just, it's what he was doing. He was trying to look out for me, and that's brotherly shit right there. And come to find out, he didn't have a very pleasant Ibogaine ride. So his assumption was I had double what he had. I did not have a very bad ride compared to him. And for folks who are listening, sometimes people do see things, bad experiences in their life, and replay them while on the medicine. Well, anyway, it was kind of cool, man, because the same young lady, Sandra, the new lady, she's tries to bring me my food. Like she sends him downstairs, and he's like, they're making you food. I'll be right back. Well, he's like, she tells me later, like, oh yeah, he had to bring you the food. So I ate. Everybody goes to sleep. I toss and turn all night long. And I'm trying to be quiet because I'm sharing rooms. I don't want to get up and walk around and stuff or whatever. So I just basically kind of toss and turn all night because I can't really sleep. And the sun starts to come up. I go and take a shower. And so the first thing I notice is myself in the mirror. And I'm like, oh, that's what spilled fuck looks like. Dude, my hair was almost halfway dreadlocks on this side. This was sticking out crazy. I just looked like I'd been drugged through the freaking landfills. I just looked horrible. I was like, whoa. I thought people said you'd come out the other side of this looking better. Well, it's not immediate. I'm like, Dude, I get in the shower. So I have this weird genetic thing called parathesis. In other words, I don't feel my skin like most people feel their skin. Like if I get cut or minor burns, stuff, I just don't feel it.
Now, anywhere?
So, like, I'm not ticklish. So the places like people are typically ticklish, sensitive areas, I feel more there. But like places where you're not ticklish and your skin is tough, I feel nothing.
Wow.
And it's just genetic. My dad had it. He didn't feel nothing. That dude, hey man, you're leaking, you know? And yeah, you need stitches, man. Like dude was rough on himself. But so I got a taste of that. I got a bit of that. So I turn the shower on, man. I get in the shower and I can feel every drop hitting my skin. Dude, I'm 46 at this point. 46 years old, and I've never felt this before. I got out of the shower and stood there and looked at it. Like, touched it a couple of times. And was like, I get back in the shower, and I think I spent probably 30 minutes there. I was like, this is amazing. I mean, I could feel every drop. It was amazing. I was like, holy shit. And so I get myself cleaned up, and I go back. I'm putting some clothes on. I've always been a jeans type of dude, you know. Put my jeans on. I'm like, right on. And I reached up and grabbed a T-shirt, and was like, I smelled it. I was like, And it was at that point I realized that I had gotten my smell back from COVID because I could smell the detergent on the shirt. And I was like, well, that's interesting in and of itself. But why does the shirt feel so nasty? Synthetic.
No shit.
I didn't want to touch it. Synthetic, like Under Armour style type of, wicking shirt or whatever. And hell, 99% of my wardrobe is wicking outdoor clothing.
Yeah.
I didn't want to touch it. I put on a cotton T-shirt and I was like, ooh, that feels good. Bebopped upstairs and the staff was awake and the cooks were all there and everything. They are typically not there because you start at night and they all go home. So the support staff, they got to hear me purging the morning before. And I don't think that some of them had ever even experienced that. So like the housekeeper or the chefs, they got to hear me throwing up, purging, gagging. Well, I walk in, man, it was kind of cool though, because everybody just stops because they're not expecting me to be up. They're expecting, I guess, everybody else to start getting up. And Salome is there, and she's just, like I said, I don't know how to explain her still yet. Just an amazing, amazing creature that just made me feel safe. She's one of the counselors there. She's done the medicine. And it's just, I don't know, dude. I wish I could explain her better. Just like Trevor, I guess, understanding, not judgmental, but at the same time, I feel like if you crossed her, you know what I mean? Like, or if you crossed someone that she loved, like, I felt like I just got this feeling from her that she was just more to her than that. I don't know. Hard to explain. Well, she's standing there all looking at me and they're like, and it was like this weird slow clap or whatever, like, holy crap, you're alive, So, dude, I was like, the chef's like, hey, we're not supposed to have breakfast ready till like 10. It's like 8:30 maybe. But I'll make you a smoothie. And bro, growing up, if you offered me a strawberry or a banana or a clump of broccoli, I'll take the broccoli. I have never liked fruit. I don't like fruit. I don't like fruit desserts. Like, I don't know. Fruit's not my thing. Those dudes made me a smoothie. And, it had strawberries and bananas and pineapples and who knows what else in it. And I was like, I'm like literally talking to the dude who made it to me. And I'm like, have you tried this? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, dude, this is amazing. Like, this is amazing. I'm like, have you tried this? And they're like, whoa, calm down, bro. It's a smoothie. But it tasted amazing. Like, I'd never had anything like it before in my life.
Yeah.
It just, everything they do down there is clean food and all that stuff and well prepared. It's just like, holy crap. So anyway, man, freaking, everybody starts to get up. and have a little round table circle. And so there was a female veteran there with us. Her commander had raped her 33 years ago, and more than once. And go around the circle, and they're basically, so Trevor's there, his partner Jonathan is there, Salome, the whole crew's there, and they're basically asking us, anything you want to share? And we're all still, they're all still pretty overwhelmed. I'm still, I'm 12 hours behind the rest of them, and she goes, yeah, he's gone. We all were like, what? She goes, for the past 33 years, every time I close my eyes and try to go to sleep, I can feel him on top of me. And she goes, last night was the first time in 33 years I shut my eyes and went to sleep, and he's gone. We all just sat there. What the fuck? Holy shit. Wow. Wow. Everybody went around, kind of said this and that. I was still processing, man. I was still pretty overwhelmed. Folks shared, but I remember they got around the circle and they were asking, would anybody consider doing it again? Both SEALs that were there were like, they didn't have pleasant experiences. It's just funny because here we are 6-8 months later, they both are scheduled to go back. Right. So initially they were a little overwhelmed. They're like, I'll never do it again. They both have said they feel like they need another one. It got to me and I was like, yeah, I'd do it again right now. And they were like, everyone's looking at me like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, it just told me not this time. So therefore next time. And that's when I fessed up that during the first journey, I got it in my head I wanted to talk to my mom. And that's when I explained it to him why, and again, nothing but understanding, love from Trevor, from Jonathan, from all of them. Love. And so, yeah, later that afternoon, I was supposed to do the 5-MeO. 5-MeO DMT, which is the venom from the Sonoran toad. Some people call it toad, some people whatever.
Real quick, Tony. You went down there to treat TBI.
Right.
And then we talked about that at breakfast. We talked about it's been brought up a couple of different times during the show that you got blown up. I think we should go into that experience.
Yeah,
if you're willing.
Myself and 3 of my Kurds, my brothers. We were in a sedan, and we were the lead vehicle. We were leading Ranger Regiment to a target. Target too big for us, so platoon plus worth of Rangers and Strikers not far behind us. We were supposed to pull up, and when we stop, the gate prior to us and to the left, they need to just drive through that gate. That's the target house. We didn't get there. We got stopped at a light in traffic, and we just happened to park next to an EFP that was meant for a striker.
Holy shit.
And so if folks don't know what an EFP is, explosively formed penetrator, explosively formed plate, you'll hear it called, basically a piece of steel, copper, other metal with explosives packed evenly behind it, primed dead center. So when it's primed blasting cap, so when the blasting cap goes off, this explosive in the middle starts detonating, goes to the outside, but it turns the plate into a spalling projectile. Excuse me. And poor man's anti-tank weapon. And like I said, it was made for a striker tank, not for an armored BMW, you know? And so in those armored sedans, the back seat is where the armor is. The trunks are not armored. So there's a 5/8 or 3/4 inch piece of AR-500 behind the rear seats. And that EFP basically hit that plate in the side. And so spalled 2 boys in the back seat. Yeah, they were DNA. Driver died from his injuries 8 or 10 hours later. When the Rangers picked us up, scraped us up, we had been blown across, this is Highway 1, Broadway, on the east side of Mosul, just north of Noah's Tomb. And so in between Noah's Tomb and the big Grand Mosque. And, you know, we were only, half a mile from our target. Our target was just behind the Grand Mosque. And, man, it went off. The last thing I remember is buckling my helmet. I had pulled my helmet out of the floor, right? And because we were getting close to being on target. And I remember clipping my helmet in. And I think I remember being in the hospital in the cache. I think I remember being wheeled into it on a stretcher. But I don't know if it's my imagination or not. The next thing I remember is I woke up in Germany. Hurt. Everything hurt. My guts hurt. My asshole hurt. Like my toes hurt. I mean, I had just been crushed by a pretty powerful explosive that took that 8,000-pound-ish car and blew it across 8 lanes of traffic to include hitting other cars and knocking them out of the way, and about another 100 feet down an alleyway. Right? Well, apparently the Rangers just piled me in. Thought I was part of the, material and people in that car. I had some burns on me. Nothing too bad. They took me to the morgue.
Are you serious?
3 or 4 years later, I was teaching helping run the course for the NSA's sister program to GRS. And we're all done. And this younger ranger was like, hey, it was like, welcome to the team type of stuff, the gay adventure. And this young ranger was like, hey, you said you worked up in Mosul with the other agency and stuff. And I was, yeah, I was up there for this and that. And he's like, did you know those guys at that time, that EFP or that bomb or whatever, that IED hit that car and killed that whole team? And I was like, in 2009? He's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, I know him. I was like, I wasn't dead, asshole. He's like, what? His squad, his striker, put us in their striker and took us home.
Get the out of here.
Small world, right? He was like, dude, I was a E2, man. I was pulling security. I don't really remember anything. He's like, I never, he's like, but yeah, man, freaking small world.
Wow.
So my memory before 2009 was shoddy at best. Like most of my childhood gone, completely gone. Bits and pieces, and again, things that I could not tell you if I wasn't making them up. It was just really hard to decide, like, is that a real memory or is that my imagination? And over the years, things have come back, and it's fun. I've never had a memory pop back up that I was like, whoa, or freaked out about. I was like, oh, cool. Very cool. Like, I didn't remember past relationships. I mean, things were gone, just gone, wiped clean. And so over the years, things have come back. Things have come back a lot since I began.
I'm glad to hear that.
A lot.
How long were you in a coma?
7 days. 7.5, 8 days. And then it was, like I said, speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy. I had to learn to walk and talk again.
How long did that take?
I still stutter. You know, you can catch it when I'm tired. I cover it up with my southern accent. So, you know, still some things lingering, but I was back working. It's June, it's what, 9 months later, 8 months later, and I was pissed. I went back there for one reason. I was pissed, man, and these were my brothers, you know? So when people talk about like anger and retribution and revenge, whatever you want to call it, being a bad thing, well, that's what got me healthy. I would go to the gym 3, 4, 5 times a day. All right. I was getting better. I was like, I broke my back one time. They said I wasn't going to walk again. Watch this. You know? The hardest part was switching hands. So my left hand wouldn't work. And so I had to go to the range and spend thousands of rounds worth of shooting with my right hand to get it up to the same level. You know, back then we used to always do a lot of switch hand working. And as a left-handed person, you know, M4s are great in your right hand. I was like, wow, this thing's so much easier to use. Wow, I can reach that button and this button. As a lefty, the gun's kind of goofy, you know? And there was none of those ambidextrous stuff back then. Glocks, you know, slide releases on the wrong side. That's not a big deal. But the big thing, the main thing, I was having these seizures and my hand and arm would do this. And I mean, good God. Well, if you're holding a Glock and your hand seizes, not a good thing, right? So I had to switch. So initially I just switched to pistol right-handed and kept trying to shoot rifle left-handed, but there would be times where I would fumble with the safety. And it just made me uncomfortable. I was like, I can't risk it. I can't risk one of my teammates getting killed because I can't handle my weapons like I used to. So every day, gym, run. Of course, I was luckily no one ever prescribed me like Oxy or anything, but I was eating Percocets, you know, but not bad enough. Not like I was like addicted to them or anything, but it was I needed them because I hurt so bad.
Yeah.
But that was only a couple months worth, man, because after the blast injury part of it, like after my lungs healed and my guts healed, I was mostly okay. It was just neurological after that. Get my brain to work again and reconnect and, you know, learning how to talk. Yeah, man. I mean, it was rough, but honestly, looking like there was never a time that I was sad, depressed. I was pissed.
Do you remember learning how to talk again?
Oh, yeah.
So could you not say anything at all?
Oh, no. I can make noises and sounds, and I had words and stuff, but it was...
Could you understand what people were saying?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. My right ear was completely destroyed, but I could hear, and I mean, I was with it. The headaches and stuff like that could interfere with things, but I wasn't very light sensitive then, like I was last June. That was new in June, the light sensitivity part. That's why when it first happened, I thought I was having a stroke. But yeah, learning to talk was interesting, and it wasn't as hard. I mean, I already knew how to do it. I just had to relearn it. So it wasn't like I was learning. I was relearning it.
How do they do that?
A lot of actual computer stuff. You sit on a computer like YouTube, and they talk you, just like almost like the way you talk to a baby, and get them to sound things out. And it's instruction, like you know, if you want to say the, you know, there would be the lady on the screen. She's like the, you know, and explain to you what you're trying to do with your tongue in your mouth. I mean, like you want to, you know, put your tongue into the, you know, bottom of your mouth, press it into your teeth, whatever. It's step by step. I mean,
shit.
Yeah, just like rehab, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy.
How long did that take?
Not that long, couple months.
Okay.
And just like when I broke my back, part of it was me just like, I got to get back to work. So I put in way more work than most guys. I mean, most guys in this facility, dude, they're done. Their careers are over. They're missing limbs and they're f***ed up. I never saw myself as one of those dudes. I just was, I'm just going to be here for a couple weeks, guys. You know? And I was only there for a couple months. And that was the thing, right? Like, my family had no idea when I was gone, when I was home, you know? I didn't have anybody important in my life. Me and Melissa weren't serious or we weren't anything at the time. I just didn't have anything serious going on as far as anyone I needed to be accountable to. So when I got home, the best thing I could come up with was, because I was lethargic, kind of just dragging ass, I told people I had mono.
What the hell?
That's why I feel like I need to sleep so much. I'm tired. No, my body was just trying to recoup. Most people bought it. They didn't have a reason not to. But I just didn't want people that cared about me to worry about me. And I also didn't want to hear it. Maybe you should stay home. Maybe you should stop that. I didn't want to hear that. So to me, it was easier just to pull shit up and stay on track for getting my ass back over there and finding the people responsible. And we did. Yeah, I mean, like I said, with almost 8 months later, I was back over there, and we were supposed to be doing this, but on my side, I was hunting those. You know? Yeah, man. I tell you, man, those boys, man, the Kurds, they're just awesome. And I think that's why I could feel so much for the 7th and 3rd group guys that had to watch their commandos and their Afghanis be abandoned. Because I was like, if this is what was happening to my brothers, my Kurds, they called me and asked me if I would go to Kurdistan. I would get on a plane. You know? Crazy shit, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Like I said, man, freaking, my headaches are non-existent. And I had it since 2009. They're gone.
It's incredible.
I don't stutter like as much as I did. If I get tired, I'll stutter. I don't look for words. I haven't put my keys in the refrigerator since I went to Tijuana. Short-term memory is exponentially improved. Exponentially. I mean, I really feel like Melissa was starting to become frustrated with me because my memory has gotten so bad, and I'd promise her I'd do something and then not do it. Dumb stuff, like just stuff around the house that she wanted me to do. Things that, it wasn't like I didn't want to do them. I just would forget. I would forget she even asked me. I don't mean like, you know, like if your wife asks you to do something and you just kind of forget, and then as soon as she says something or you see her coming, oh shit, I forgot. Mm-hmm. No, dude, it was as if the conversation never happened.
Completely gone.
Try explaining that to someone.
Yeah.
I have no words to explain, literally looking at you going, I don't remember that part of my life. And it happened this morning. So I lived that way for a long time, not knowing what I had forgotten, which is a weird way to live.
Yeah.
And I mean, guys would be like, hey man, we talked about that yesterday. Really? Sorry, bro. You mind telling me your answer? Because I had zero recollection of even seeing you yesterday.
Yeah.
I learned to live with it. You know, I learned to also hide it from people. Not because I was like trying to hide it. I just didn't want to talk about it. I got other shit to do. You know, I got things to do. I don't want anybody, you know, I don't want any kind of weird sympathy or any of that kind of stuff. I just had stuff to do. So now it's actually really cool that, you know, I've seen an improvement. The number one thing coming out the other side of the whole experience is it definitely emboldened, strengthened, reconnected me with God. in my faith. But exponentially more so with Melissa. Our relationship's pretty darn strong and has been since the beginning. We're not without periods where we bumped heads. We had 2 periods where we could have easily broken up. Luckily, we're both really hard-headed and didn't. But yeah, that was what I got out of Ibogaine. The 5, right? And so like I said, for the folks who are listening, it is the venom. It's a venom, potentially lethal venom from the Sonoran toad frog. And it's like, okay, so wait a minute. We're going to take this venom and we're going to put it in a pipe. We're going to aerosol it and breathe it directly into our lungs. Yeah? All right, cool. Right on. Sounds great. I just thought it was hilarious. Like, okay, cool. Right on. So we had a beautiful day down there. Like, I'd never been to Tijuana before. In my head, Tijuana is like, Tijuana, what everyone thinks of with Tijuana, like donkeys and stuff. Right? Like, I don't know. I've never been there. I've only heard crazy stuff. Well, it's a gated community. It's totally, I felt completely safe there, right? Guards and all that. And it's overlooking the Pacific Ocean. You've seen, what is that, Catalina Island, right? That you can see there. But I saw something I had never seen before that afternoon. A fog bank at 2 or 3 in the afternoon. We don't have that on the East Coast. There's no fog in the middle of the day. Apparently, in Southern California, in that area, fog can roll in at any time on the Pacific Ocean. I didn't know. But to me, it's amazing. I've never seen it before. And you're, what? I don't know, 500, 600, maybe 1,000 feet above the ocean. And this fog, you can't see the ocean. And dude, I remember I could feel the mist on my skin. And I didn't want to go inside. I just want to sit outside. And it felt amazing. I could feel like every single drop of mist on it was amazing. So we all decided, since it was just so beautiful out and that mist was awesome, like, hey, we'd like to do it outside. They're like, well, yeah, absolutely. So we set up the little bed, blankets, pillows, right out in the grass. And, Trevor says, hey, who wants to go first? The other SEAL, not the one that I was connected to, he was like, because I was like, I'll go, I don't care. First, last, doesn't matter to me. And he goes, honestly, guys, do you mind if I go? Because if I don't go ahead and go, I might punk out. I don't know. He just didn't have a great Ibogaine trip. Absolutely. And they had told us that, on 5, you can have all kinds of experiences that most people see very happy things, from, the circus, just happy things, good visions. Most people have that. It's like, and then other people have, more nightmarish looking things. And, like, that's typically rare and this and that. And I'm like, okay, whatever, Well, that gentleman goes outside, man, and it wasn't long. I could hear him laughing. I had never heard someone laugh like this before. It was like, it's kind of like a child laughing when they're so overwhelmed with something funny that they're just, but an adult male.
Like a belly laugh.
Dude, it was insane. And I was like, hell yeah. I couldn't help it. Got up and peeked through the blinds, because they had asked us not to, but I couldn't help it. Man, he's out there rolling around in the grass, just having a blast, right? He's having a wonderful experience. He comes in, and, as he walks to go to his bedroom, he just kind of smiling, he's happy. Like, whatever he saw, I'm like, wow. And they're like, all right, who's next? All right, I'll go. And so he got there, and Trevor briefs you up again. He's like, hey, I'm going to warm this up. You're going to inhale, try to draw it out, 30-second inhale. And he's like telling me how to inhale. I'm like, Trevor, I know how to inhale, bro. It's been a while, but he's like, okay, yeah. And then, you'll just simply, once you've had as much as you can, exhale. He's like, I'm going to start counting back from 10. And you got like the sleepy masks. And he's like, you just put that down, lay back. He's like, by the time your head hits that pillow, if you aren't experiencing it, then you didn't get medicine. So don't just lay there and just go, well, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And in the exact same voice that he asked me, are you sure about Ibogaine? He goes, are you ready? And I just kind of smiled at me. He goes, yeah, you're ready. I mean, just, there's something about that dude, man. Like, you know, I don't know what it is, man. What a cool mofo, man. So yeah, I start pulling on it, and man, everything turned silver. And again, I wish I could, that's the closest thing I have to describing it. I could see the serrations on the grass at my feet, and everything's silver. He's silver. But again, it's like the light is different. I wish I could explain it to people. I wish I had words. But anyway, so as I lay back, I put that mask on, everything, it's just this crazy silverish color. And then all of a sudden, boom. It's hard to describe it, but it's as if that I'm describing pushed itself off me. And everything turned black. I could hear the wind. Right? It was just this peaceful, this calmness. And I felt this weird, this little twinge of panic to all those guys out there who's, you know, right about the time you go to walk off that tailgate, you go, damn, this is dumb. Why do we do this? That, where you know you should be afraid, or you know you should feel uneasy, but then you just shut it down and walk off the tailgate anyway. You know? I kind of had that feeling. Like, it wasn't panic. It was just a slight 2 seconds of uneasiness. Like, whoa, what is this? And I heard Trevor say, just breathe. The medicine said, basically like, don't listen to him, tone of voice, just die. And nothingness, just nothingness. And I don't know for how long. It seemed like seconds, but, you know, I was under the influence of it for 20 minutes or so.
Nothingness for that long?
Well, for me, it seemed like seconds. But apparently, I'm under for 20-some minutes. I had a longer ride on it than some people, because it can last 8 minutes, 2 minutes, 22 minutes. So it was a little bit longer ride. And so when I came to, right, I'm looking at Trevor, and everyone's, I wouldn't say panic, but they have a very concerned look on their face. I apparently held my breath, I guess you could say, for longer than I probably should have. But I wasn't purposely holding my breath, bro. And all I can say is the nothingness, the thing that I saw after the nothingness, after it kind of got put together, was the other side. It showed me the other side. When I was on Ibogaine, I could see it. And then 5 showed it to me.
Hold on. So you felt nothingness, and then you experienced the other side. So what was the other side? Peace.
Calm. Quiet. Quiet in here. Quiet. Safety. Peace. True peace. Like the kind that's described in the Bible.
But no visuals.
Nothing. I sat up, and I never felt more amazing. And like I said, they were looking at me a little concerned. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, I just died. And Trevor went, yeah, man, you did. Gave me this big hug. All of them just piled on top of me. It's this big, big hug. And I'd never felt so much love in my life. I mean, these are, for the most part, strangers. You know, I've known them for a couple of days. I never felt more safe and more loved in my life. except for, when my mom was alive.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Amazing. And the cool thing is, man, like, people on social media, when I first came on social media, I was pretty aggressive. But because Instagram had 1 minute, I would put my little videos out. And if somebody said something, I talked to them like I talked to the boys in the team room. I didn't know how to talk to regular people, So I got a little bit of a reputation for being kind of an asshole. And I didn't mean to be. And I'm like, that's so weird because when people meet me, my friends will tell you, there's nothing I have that I won't give you. Like, nothing. Right? Like, you're like, hey, man, I'm going, I got this cool thing, man. I'm going elk hunting. You got like one of those student rifles I can borrow? No, dude, I'm going to give you my rifle. You know what I mean? I'm going to give you my $8,000 custom 300 PRC. Right? That's what I'm giving you because I care about my friends, not about things. I care about people I love, not about things. So it's kind of funny, man, that people will say that they think I'm an asshole. Now, if you're a dick to me, it's fine. I don't care, I'm not necessarily a violent person, but I'm fairly comfortable with it. And I don't mind fist fighting and stuff. And so I've said things like that to people on the internet where I'm like, hey, you're the internet tough guy, man. How about come say that shit to my face? I grew up in the military where some OG Woodline, we could sort it out. What happened in the team room? I mean, like I said, man, there's a reason why my nose is crooked. My warrant broke my nose because I was talking shit. First lesson I ever learned in Special Forces was shut your mouth. So leaving there, right, like it just made me realize even more that, man, I got nothing to prove to anyone.
Yeah.
I enjoy interacting with people and helping people. And I walked away from that with this calmness, this peace, but just as much so this clarity. Because, it's even funny because people have even said, okay, so now, what are you, like some kind of hippie now? Are you like tree-hugging hippie? I'm like, no. Like, I feel like I'm probably more efficient, more capable than ever before because of this clarity. Mm-hmm. I have nothing confusing or clouding my thoughts. So whether it be violent work or, I don't know, freaking framing my house, things are clear for me. I have been able to prioritize even better what's truly important in my life, right? And it really just boils down to one thing, and her name's Melissa. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm still going to look out for my buddies, but it's just like, if I have to give you some type of flow chart on, my priorities in life, it's her. And she's always been right up there, like, since we've been together. But now it's
more clear.
Very clear. Very clear. And it's awesome.
That's amazing.
It is, man.
Do you remember messaging me right after that? I mean, we weren't even.
No, I had just known that you had went.
Yeah,
I was like,
we weren't even. Well, we don't talk.
Right.
I don't think I even had your number at that point, and it just made me so happy, man, because I could tell you were a little abrasive on social, and no judgment. I just and to see like that kind of message come privately, I was like, shit, man, there it is again.
Yeah.
Just
watching what it's done for dudes. I think I've got 6 guys that I've vouched for with vets that have gone. I've got one buddy he's afraid of it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, bro, it's not acid. Not that people think that, bad LSD trips, like you never come out of it. But that's That's propaganda. That's bullshit. That never happened with LSD. Now, maybe if somebody was making it in their basement or something like that, maybe some people had some bad trips or whatever, but that's just not what LSD does. Even though I've not done LSD, I just have read about it since and how it was being applied as a medicine before they banned all the psychedelics in the 60s or whatever and scheduled them with heroin and cocaine. Really.
Yeah.
Of course, we can get into whether or not Big Pharma has anything to do with that sort of stuff.
Oh, I'm sure they got their hands in that. You know, I just want to say real quick, Tony, that, you know, a lot of people watching these shows, they get a lot out of it. And believe it or not, I think the majority of people that watch them are civilians.
I think so, too.
And they are trying to overcome their own trauma. And we always get these questions on, you know, how can I do that? And I want to tell everybody that this isn't just a military thing.
It's not. Trauma's trauma, brother.
Trevor, the exact same person that treated me and that treated you, has a civilian program too, and now I'm going to link that. His link will be in the description below.
He was treating civilians way before he.
Yep, he started. He started pulling addicts off the street and treating them in hotel rooms.
Yeah.
And then it's developed into what it is today. So
for folks listening who don't know, Ibogaine is like 98% effective at curing opioid addiction.
Yep.
I mean, we have a plague of it, a true pandemic, epidemic, if you will, of heroin and everything that's, you know, these opiates and stuff. And there's a potential cure for it.
Yeah.
Right.
I think
Laying
71,000 people OD'd last year, if I'm correct.
That fentanyl stuff is horrible, bro. I mean, that stuff's so powerful that, you know, you got cops ODing from touching it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's being used as a weapon.
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt. It's not a coincidence that it's being pumped, created, you know, produced in China and shipped through and over our southern border. There's no doubt in my mind it is a weapon. I mean, we've gone to war for a lot less.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, man, you look great.
I feel great,
You
man.
look like a different person.
I still lug around some injuries. I'm getting a little older. My workouts are, you know, I still hit the gym very regularly. I'm not trying to kill myself anymore. I'm trying to maintain. I want to be able to hunt. I want to be able to play with my dogs, keep up with Melissa, which I barely already do anyway, you know, for the next 20 years, you know, or 30 years or whatever I have left, or 30 days. I don't care. And I want her to be happy. I think for the longest time, man, if you asked me how I was doing, I would have used the word content. I knew I wasn't happy, but I also didn't know what that word meant either. I know what happy feels like now.
Good.
And I don't want to ever let it go. Right? Like, I feel like the only thing you're going to get more of a reaction out of me than somehow threatening Melissa would be threaten this happiness, which those two things are very
Intertwined.
Yeah, very intertwined. Yeah, man. And you know, it's like after the running for Congress, I felt gross.
Really?
Oh God, bro. Gross. Like I needed a shower. You know?
Do you want to go into running for Congress?
For sure.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break. We'll come back and talk about that.
Cool. Yeah, it's stuff I think people will find really interesting.
I'm interested.
I don't know if you all have been paying attention, but there is a huge push to go to a digital dollar, also known as central bank digital currency, which could leave us a cashless society. But when every dollar is gone, that means no extra cash for garage sales and no tooth fairy or piggy banks. Every penny you spend could be tracked and controlled. Of course, millions will call it a conspiracy theory, but those people may end up on the wrong side of history. That's one reason why thousands of Americans are opting out of the system and putting some of their savings into gold and silver. To help you navigate that decision, you can go to goldco.com/Ryan or call 855-936-GOLD to get a free 2023 gold IRA kit from my new partner, Goldco. This free kit shows how you can protect your savings with physical gold and silver, tax-free and penalty-free. Plus, you'll see how you could get up to $10,000 in free silver just for protecting your savings. So with the possibility of a digital dollar coming, at the very least, you want to be educated about your options. So go to goldco.com/Ryan or call 855-936-GOLD to get their 2023 free gold IRA kit today. That's goldco.com/Ryan. Performance may vary. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision. I want to tell you all about this new meat delivery service I found called Moink. What I really like about Moink is they are from a small, rural farm town in Missouri, LaBelle, Missouri, right by where I grew up, and I love supporting small town business USA. Now, when I started looking into Moink, they educated me on the meat industry, and I want to share with you all a couple of facts, according to Moinked magazine. 60% of all pork is produced by one company in the U.S., and that is 100% owned by the Chinese. 4 companies control over 80% of the meat industry in the United States. More than 10,000 different additives are allowed in the U.S. food supply. 99% of chicken, 95% of hogs, 78% of cattle in the U.S. are raised in confinement buildings or feedlots. That means they're not moving around freely. 80% of the antibiotics consumed in the U.S. are fed to animals. Here's a stat. In 2016, 18.4 million pounds of antibiotics were sold for livestock. And that's what you're eating. Suicide rates amongst farmers are the highest than any other profession, and that includes veterans, believe it or not. I found that alarming. Now, here's what Moink is doing to combat some of this stuff, which I really appreciate. Their livestock is 100% born and raised and harvested humanely in the United States of America. Their farms practice regenerative agricultural methods. They are free of GMOs, antibiotics, and all hormones. Their Alaska salmon is wild caught. Their beef and lamb are grass-fed and grass-finished. Their boxes ship from rural America, right in small-town Missouri. Love it. Their chicken and pork are pasture-raised. So, guys, check them out. Moink. Keep America farming going by signing up at moinkbox.com/SRS. Right now, listeners on this show get free bacon in your first box. It will be the best bacon you will ever taste, but it's only for a limited time. It's spelled Moink, MOINK, box.com/SRS. That's moinkbox.com/SRS. All right, Tony, we're back from the break. I think this is probably going to be our last segment, but you ran for Congress.
Yeah, I mean, in a
How dirty is
it? I got to peek behind the curtain, see how fundraising is done, see how the whole industry works. That's what it is.
Well, I think we all know, the country's we're in some deep shit.
Yeah.
And so what was it that nobody like us wants to fucking run for Congress?
Nope.
It's crossed my mind. You're seeing more and more.
None of us want that job, but we know it needs to be done, and we're duty-driven type people.
Yeah.
And we also love what our country was intended to be, what it was initially the dream. We all believe it, like in our souls, right? The problem is politics, right, is not our government, right? Politics is something different. Politics is what we have now. Republicans, Democrats. 2 wings on the same bird, man. And I'll tell you, man, you want to talk about just vicious Republicans, man, corrupt, full of shit, liars, all the way to the local level, like your local GOP.
Before we get into that, sorry.
Yeah.
Was there like a last straw that made you want to run?
So, I mentioned the name Ilario Pantano. Ilario was the lieutenant in the Marine Corps in Fallujah that was charged with murder. He was one of the first of the GWAT to have that kind of bullshit happen to him. He lost a couple dudes, bad casualties the day before, platoon leader. And so they're searching a vehicle, military-age males with RPGs, AKs in the trunk. And I of course, different stories, whatever. I don't even care. But bottom line is he burned them down. And changed mags in doing so at a traffic stop, an OP. Or a vehicle checkpoint, I guess, VCP. And then him and his boys took them to the nearest traffic circle and hung a sign around their neck that said, "Warlords, no better friend, no worst enemy." That's their battalion motto. They're the warlords, whichever Marine battalion they were. And he was basically like, saying, hey, stop, don't fuck with us, It's war, bro, But the folks over at, the Navy, the lawyers, the JAGs, the NCIS or whatever they are, and they charged him. He went so far to exhume the bodies, et cetera, et cetera. Crazy. So he ran in 2010. And so I was there for it. I didn't participate. I knew him. I had met him, and we were friends. He decided to do this. It wasn't a time in my life where I was interested in it. I was interested in deploying. So I watched kind of afar. I went to a couple of his events, and there was a time in there where he and his wife got some death threats. So I accompanied his wife to things that he was getting there separate of her, stuff like that. So I watched it. It was interesting. And I was like, yeah, man, change the world. Good luck, buddy. I didn't care. Right? I was so apolitical back then. And then, yeah, man, as the world got weird, as the world was getting weird, I was like, man, everybody always focuses on the president. The president isn't the body. That's not the part of our government that we need to be focused on. It's sad and pathetic that 98% of Americans cannot tell you the name of their congressperson. And I will not call them representatives. That's what they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
But they're not. That's why I make a very clear distinction when I talk about them. I'm like, you're so-called representative, or I'll call them a congressman, because there are very few of them that actually represent their people very well. The job of a congressperson, a representative, is to represent the people of their district and go to DC and advocate for them. It's not what they do, right? They're making laws. They call themselves lawmakers. How many more laws do we need? I mean, do we really need more laws? How about let's get rid of some of the ones. Let's get some of the old ones off the books before we go making new ones. Well, Easter 2 years ago, Ilario moved from North Carolina up to New York. I hadn't talked to him in a while. And I started kicking it around. I'm like, I'm in a time in my life where, man, it would be, if I could get elected as a congressperson, a representative, I might be able to, make a difference. And I'm not necessarily an ideological type person. He came by the house. He was down from New York on Easter Day. And I was out at the range. He came back, dropped the tailgate. We were just sitting on the tailgate, catching up. And I went, hey, man, what do you think about, and dude, he sits up, hops off the tailgate. He goes, if there was ever a time, now's it. And I went, easy, buddy. I haven't even talked to you. He goes, yes, you should run. He knew. He just knew. And I guess he knew because, he had been in that exact same spot before. He goes, it's a off-season election, weak incumbent rhinos are weak, they're vulnerable, et cetera, et cetera. Well, at the time, there was the district, they had stood up this new district in North Carolina, and I lived in it. And I was like, I want to run a district I live in. I don't want to look at people and be like, hey, I know I live way over there, but I want to represent you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, remember when Hillary became a New York citizen, a resident of New York, not citizen, so she could run for Senate there? Aren't you from Arkansas?
Yeah.
But New Yorkers are like, woo! Like, she's not even from your state, weirdos.
Yeah.
So all that put together, I was like, there wasn't this new district. There was no incumbent. It was going to be a new district. Pretty rural. And it also included Cumberland County, as in Fort Bragg. And I was like, okay. So initially started out, and I said, okay. I announced. I said, I'm going to do it. Melissa and I posted up a video. Ilario put me in contact with some of the people who helped him.
I remember seeing that video.
Yeah, the
I
consultants.
was all fired up about it, man. I was like, yes.
I watch that video every now and then, and whenever, it pops up in memories or feeds or whatever, I'm like, wow.
I'll put it up right now. Put it up.
Hello, I'm Tony Cowden, and I'm running for U.S. House of Representatives right here in Eastern North Carolina's 3rd Congressional District. I spent 25 years of my life in the Special Operations community. It's in that community we have a very simple leadership principle, and that is the leader will be the example and must exceed all standards. I would like to carry that same type of commitment and leadership onto Capitol Hill. And so this is me pledging to you, my friends, families, and neighbors right here in Eastern North Carolina, that I will return $50,000 of my congressional salary each year back to Eastern North Carolina. I will return it to charitable organizations that benefit Eastern North Carolina's children, veterans, and law enforcement first responders. This is what leadership looks like, and you now have an option when you go to the polls on May 17th. Vote for me, Tony Cowden, and you will get the change that we so desperately need. I think you can just tell, man, in that video, I was fed up. I was fed up with the government not doing the right thing. They're just not doing the right thing. And I don't understand it. I don't understand how hard it is to do the right thing. I don't get it. Money and greed over the country. You're traitors. They're traitors. So, yeah, we announce, and North Carolina gets into this freaking thing with the courts, and the liberals don't like the new districts. I mean, the Republicans gerrymandered them. The Republicans always fussing about Democrats gerrymandering. Republicans do it too. They did it. Set me up for success. I was like, cool, yeah. It's like, all right, I'm running this district. It's going to be awesome. I started getting lots of support early. I announced we raised like $200,000. I think we raised $100,000 in like the first week. And people were like, ooh, I mean, people were looking. I was on radars. I was getting calls from staff members, from representatives around the country. Especially like staff members who knew who I was and maybe liked it. I put shooting videos up and stuff like that. I mean, kind of backhanded support, because here's the deal. And this is just how spineless and pathetic incumbents are. They will not support anyone in a primary election. So in my primary election, there was no incumbent. So I started getting support from elected and sitting representatives, so-called representatives. I mean, it was looking good. Started getting some promises on some bigger money, but it's a pretty cheap market, as far as TV, radio, that kind of stuff. The counties are all rural, no major city except for Fayetteville in the district. And then North Carolina flipped it. And the courts, the Democrats drew up some new lines. The courts denied them, but the courts are all liberal Democrats. That's changed in that last election. And basically the courts, so in the North Carolina Constitution, it clearly says the General Assembly will make the districts. The courts took it upon themselves and redrew the districts and told our General Assembly, our House and Senate, North Carolina House and Senate, to f off. Our Republican House and Senate leaders, being the spineless people they are, they filed a lawsuit with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court basically said, yeah, it's unconstitutional, but y'all have an election coming up, so it's too late. What? So you mean to tell me, as we speak right now, every single North Carolina congressman is unconstitutionally elected?
Wow.
Every one of them. All, 14 of them. They're all illegally, unconstitutionally elected as we speak. And check it out. So North Carolina, the General Assembly, the Senate, and now the Supreme Court of North Carolina are all held by Republicans. You think they fixed it?
No.
Haven't even made an attempt. It's like it never happened. So when that district changed, my new district puts me in the district there where the county that I grew up in is now in my district. And I'm like, that's awesome. Camp Lejeune, Cherry Point, big Coast Guard station up in Elizabeth City. But it's a huge district, man. 14 counties, 6 hours from my house because I'm on the southwestern end, all the way past and up to Moyock, right? All the way to the Virginia line, up the Outer Banks. Huge district, 6.5 hours from my house to the other side. And I got a campaign there. And I don't have the friends in the local media that the incumbent has paid for. You know? I mean, let's face it, if you own the local TV station everyone listens to, and you're the congressman and you give that dude, $5-6 grand a week or a month or whatever it was, well, that dude's now your friend. And so, like, specifically the Henry Hinton show, when I said, hey, I'm challenging Dr. Greg Murphy, and Dr. Greg Murphy will tell you, I'm a doctor first, representative second. What? I mean, he literally says it in speeches and stuff. It's the same dude who was giving the jab, a Republican, and telling pregnant mothers they should get the jab. This is a Republican. And using he's a urologist, dude. And he's telling people to get a vaccine. A urologist. But people don't know any better. He's just a doctor, which is good enough because people listen to their doctors no matter what shit they tell them to pump in their bodies. So I say, okay, I look at Greg's history, his voting history. He's got like a 70% rating by different conservative groups and stuff like that. He's a rhino. He'll vote with the Dems in a second. He's not a gun guy. He's not a 2A guy. So I announce that I'm going to run against him. So I'll back up a little bit. I went and hung out with JT and all the guys from Black Rifle, was on their podcast. They're in Texas. They helped introduce me to Dan Crenshaw. Initially, Dan was all about supporting me. Said, yep, I'm going to come out there. We'll do fundraisers. Like Dan's people, his folks, they've got big time fundraising capabilities. And yeah, man. So I was like, hell yeah, this is all looking good. And then it switched. And now I have to tell people that I'm getting ready to challenge an incumbent. So my consultant that Ilaria had linked me up with, he's like, oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. Him and Han. He's like, basically, challenging an incumbent is a big deal. It is a career ender in that industry. Especially if it's an incumbent who gets on his knees for Kevin McCarthy. If you are loyal to Kevin McCarthy, you have the backing of the Republican establishment. And that was before Kevin was even speaker. He was minority leader. But that kind of power, they will not defy him. Right? When they were trying to elect him, everyone caved but one. last January, right? Eli Crane. He said, I promised my constituents I will not vote for Kevin McCarthy for, House leader. And he didn't. And he was the only one. So anyway, dude, Kevin McCarthy is one of the most powerful people in this government, just like Pelosi. And all we did by switching was take Pelosi out and put Kevin in. They're the same people. They're both from California. I was like, dude, I've had enough California in my Carolina. I don't need another Speaker of the House from California. But there was no one else that would really step up and try to take that power because no one wants to challenge Kevin. And apparently he's pretty vindictive. Like he will take your seats on your committees. Eli made the joke. He's like, yeah, my committee assignment is probably going to be in the janitorial closet. But
we just talked about that.
So be
I
it.
just interviewed him 2 days ago. We just talked about this exact same thing.
I texted him throughout that whole thing. I was like, brother, I am so proud of you. Thank you so much. So, like I said, I announced I'm going to challenge this goober, Greg Murphy. I have nothing nice to say about that man. He will have an adversary in me for the rest of his life because he went personal. He wouldn't debate me, right? This guy's a doctor. He's said things like, people didn't elect me. He's like, people elect me for my brain because I'm smarter than them. He says shit like that. These are the people we're electing. So I text Danny Crenshaw, and said, hey man, you got a minute? It's like, yeah. I'm like, hey, so check it out. Things have changed. Puts me in a different district. I'm going to be running against Republican incumbent Greg Murphy. He said, who? I was like, you work with him? You know what I mean? Like, they don't even know each other, right? You would think the Republican representatives in Congress would all know each other. Dan didn't know him. And I was like, he's a doctor, kind of short, slim shoulders, balding, nothing. I don't know how else to describe him, bro. And I don't know if he Googled him or what, but he went, oh, yeah, oh, God, yeah, geez, yeah. But damn, man, well, this sucks. I'm like, oh, yeah, how so? And I knew what he was going to say. I can't help you now. I can't help you run against an incumbent. Not a Republican. It's going against the establishment. So I can't. And he didn't say that part, but it's going against the establishment. It's going against Kevin McCarthy. Wouldn't do it. They won't do it. Madison Cawthorn, same way. So Madison, I think Madison's heart. You know who Madison is? Wheelchair?
Yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah. I think Madison, I know Madison's heart is in the right place, but he's young. He's a young man.
It is.
What's that?
He spent a lot of time on social media. A lot of time on
He's
social
25, 26-year-olds, or maybe a little older now, but that's what they do, so.
Maybe there's more important things.
Right. Like I said, I've talked to Madison a few times. I do feel like his heart is in the right place. Like, he wants America to be right. Like, I don't think is he like everybody else in his generation with social media? They want follows, clicks, and likes? Yeah. But I still think he also wants the nation to do well. And I'll tell you, Dan even said, he was like, because I mentioned, I was like, hey man, well, Madison said that, he's supportive. He really does not like Greg Murphy. And he said he would help me. And Dan's like, you know what? F that kid. He's like, I've tried to help that kid. He won't listen to nobody. Whoever he supports, we're going to go against. He's like, we'll do everything we can to out-primary him. And then they went against Madison. He crossed them, because he came out and said that he had been invited to like parties or seen cocaine use or something like that, right? He said that out loud. And then he retracted his statement, and then he did not get elected. The Republican Party stood an opponent up against him and ran him into the dirt and ousted him from Congress.
Damn.
Yeah, man. They're vicious. Because they're holding on to power, right? People don't give up power, right? People don't give up power. And that's what they have. And riches. I mean, It's a $174,000 a year job. How in 5 years these guys go in there worth $100,000, come out worth, $6 million, $10 million. And after 20 years there, they're worth $60 million or more. How is it possible? Well, I'll tell you why it's possible, or how it's possible. It's because we don't do anything. The American people have sat back and let them do whatever they want on Capitol Hill. Whatever they want, unchecked. The average person cannot tell you the name of their senator, and there's only 2 per state, as opposed to the anywhere from, 5 to, I don't know how many California has, a bunch of representatives. They don't even know their senator's name, bro. Some Americans don't know the vice president of the United States. Like, we're so uninformed and so lazy, right? We're spoiled.
Well, in all fairness, Tony, we don't see much of her.
Yeah, in her case. But or how about
I'm just
who was Trump's vice president? People don't know.
Yeah.
So, and how that is the fix. Everybody asks me, well, what do you think is the fix? How do we fix this? I'm like, well, we have to rally. I'm like, there's a clear, easy model on how to take this country in the direction you want. And it's proven to work. And people are like, what? I'm like, the Democrats since 1960, bro. What they've done is the perfect model for subverting a culture and a government. Perfect. They did an awesome job, right? And they continue to do an awesome job, right? Transgender people make up potentially less than 1% of the population. And look how powerful they become. How is it possible? Because the Democrats know subversion. And I think it's probably because a lot of liberals are, let's face it, they're spineless beta types. And spineless beta types don't know or understand or appreciate any type of confrontation. So they're sinister, they're sneaky. And that's politics, bro. I asked somebody the other day, I said, name one representative on Capitol Hill that you would be afraid to fist fight. And she said, I can't think of one. I was talking to a girl, not one of us. Like, name one representative or senator on Capitol Hill that you're scared to fist fight. And they were like, this is a woman. And she's not a fighter. She's just a friend of ours. She's like, yeah, they're not very scary people. They're spineless. They're amoebas. So, yeah, man, that was when I already had not the most awesome feeling about Dan, but I was still kind of like rooting for him. And I was like, wow, yep, you're just like the rest of them, dude. You're just spineless. So all the way down to like the local GOP. The smaller counties, not so much. They were pretty legit. Those are people who believe. But you're talking about a GOP meeting once a month that has 9 people show up. You go to Onslow County, where Camp Lejeune is, or Craven County, where New Bern, North Carolina is. Those are the 2 biggest population centers in this district. And the county commissioners, the police chiefs, or sheriffs, not chiefs, because they're elected. Dude, they're all, they treat the congressman like he's a celebrity. They just want his phone number. I've heard people say, yeah, well, I've got his personal cell number. And I'm like, I give my personal cell number out at everything I speak at, and I'll not change it if I'm elected. Because I work for you, and you should have my personal cell phone number. It shouldn't just be to my big campaign donors. I got to the point where I said, I tell you what, I told people, I was like, how about this? Congressional salary is $174,000 a year. I hereby pledge and swear to give $50,000 of it back each year to veterans charities in this district. People were like, what? But I couldn't get the local news medias to say my name, much less put that kind of shit out.
Damn.
He had them bought and paid for. I mean, we spent in the last 4 weeks, because we didn't have much time. And once they made that switch, I was now in this new district for only about 7 weeks. 7 weeks, man. Campaigns are usually a year and a half long. 7 weeks. So I had 7 weeks to visit, 14 counties and try to get my name out. So, dude, I knew I was going to lose. I knew there was zero chance of beating Greg Murphy. So I just focused on his record and stayed the course. He did the right thing, went around and shook a bunch of babies, kissed some hands, something like that. Anyway. And then we went to this event, dude, in Craven County, North Carolina. And it was the Reagan-Lincoln dinner. And if folks don't know out there, Google Lincoln and the writ of habeas corpus and look at all the people that when he suspended the writ of habeas corpus due process and started locking up senators and other political rivals. Like Abraham Lincoln is probably one of the worst presidents in United States history. And it's a lie that Honest Abe was this close to being Caesar. Sidebar. So we're at this Lincoln Reagan dinner because Lord knows Republicans love those two dudes, and I don't get it because they were two of the most liberal Republicans ever. But whatever. After the dinner, I went up to the representative, the congressman, and was going to shake his hand. And just kind of waiting. He kept kind of blowing me off, but I was like, this dude's going to shake my hand. You know what I mean? Have some courtesy here, dude. I'm challenging you. I'm just challenging you. It's not personal. It's like, I think I can do a better job than you. But if he loses, man, he loses a lot, right? Well, his regional, his director, his district director, a woman named Lindy Robinson, I knew her from before I was going to run. And she speaks to me. We were cordial, I thought. She speaks to me. And I'm like, Lindy, man, what's up with, man, all the negativity that, man, you guys are bashing me hard. Like, really, man, I thought we'd play a little nicer in this. And she was like, no, Tony, that's not us. What it was is this gentleman named Wayne King, who was actually associated with my consultant. Wayne King is a political consultant. He had actually been pretty high up in North Carolina GOP. Maybe, I can't remember exactly what. So Wayne King had gone to Pamlico County Sheriff's Department and asked him for my mugshot from when I got arrested as a kid. And so one of the chief deputy there that I grew up with calls me. He's like, hey, man, somebody was just in here. I'm like, oh, yeah? What was his name? He's like, last name King, maybe? I was like, Wayne King. He's like, yep, that was him. Right on. Not a problem. My record's my record, man. I was like, do y'all have a mugshot? Because I don't remember. He's like, no, we didn't book you like that. It wasn't that kind of a charge. So, no. I was like, thanks, bro. I appreciate it. So I emailed Wayne. I was like, hey, bro, if there's anything like that you want, I'll give it to you happily. So I went and posted my entire record on our Facebook page. I've got a lot of speeding tickets, bro. I've been in a hurry a lot of my life. And typically when I speed, I just don't give the patrolman much options. Either I'm doing 5 over or I'm doing 15 plus over. You know what I mean? Like when I speed, I'm in a hurry. So I get a ticket. And over 20 years, I've racked up 1 or 2 a year. So there's that. So my record looks bad just because of speeding tickets. But I have the cocaine possession charge. And then I have an assault on a female. To which my ex-wife testified it didn't happen. Basically, we got in an argument. We were in the middle of the divorce. She had a few. Frankly, I had a date that I was trying to get to. And, she wanted to hang out. And I was like, I got to go. She gets pissed. She kicked my car and rolled her ankle and scuffed her knee. I was in the car. I was leaving. I was like, whatever. And, hey, she was almost 6 foot tall wearing heels. She rolled her ankle on an angle driveway. Excuse me. So what they didn't tell people was the officer came because the neighbors called the cops. It was called the law. And so not knowing what happened, the officer charged us both. Only mine was assault with a female. Well, a female, and hers was assault. We hired the same attorney. The attorney went, it was all dismissed. All right. The officer apologized. Sorry, man. Had to charge you both with something. Oh, did you? Okay, whatever. So anyway, that happened in 2006. So we're talking 15 years later. They put that shit out there. So I posted all on social media, put it out there. And then they tried to attack my service.
Really?
Yeah. So the guardians of the Green Beret came in. There was this chick, what was her name? So she's like a financial advisor, and there's rules, right? Financial advisors can't donate. They can't a certain amount or this and that. They're not really supposed to work for the campaigns. So she was a volunteer. Wish I could remember that woman's name. I would say it. I would be happy to say her name. She's big girl. Just could tell, just a miserable looking human being. Former Army chick, an officer. And she was claiming to be a combat veteran, but slamming on me. So, of course, we checked her out. She was a finance officer, dude. She served in a time before women were allowed in combat, but because she went to Afghanistan, she was saying she was a combat vet. So basically, people other than me just crushed her. And but she and some other people, they started women against Tony Cowden. Tony Cowden's a woman beater, blah blah blah. And I'm like, man, I have 2 top secret clearances. I take polygraphs, right? And last time I checked, it's not guilty until proven otherwise. And I went to court and was proven not guilty, found not guilty. That shit's in the past, right? But they kept trying to perpetuate it or whatever. It's all he had. Okay. So back to that event. I'm talking to Lindy, and it's a cordial conversation. And the congressman is standing here. She and I are face to face, and he's still back to me, man. Every time I was wanted to introduce myself and, hey, may the best man win, right? Simple stuff. No different than if we were going to square off in a wrestling match or boxing match. You shake each other's hands, right? Give each other a little bit of respect. No, dude, he wasn't about that. He talks about how military this, military that. Well, this same slimy, spineless bastard, as soon as he had the opportunity, right, he's got 400, screw that, back up. He's got Camp Lejeune, Cherry Point, and the Coast Guard stations, right? A lot of military and veterans in his district, huge. So he was on the military, was it military affairs or the veterans affairs? One of those two. He was on that committee, and the second he had an opportunity, he left and went to the Ways and Means Committee. And you know what it costs to get on the Ways and Means Committee?
No.
So here's another little thing people don't understand about committees. If you look at Greg Murphy's filings, right, his FEC campaign filings, there are max contributions to every single person who sits on that committee. So campaign finance is a commodity, a trade way. There's lots of things you can't spend it on, right? I couldn't buy you a Rolex as a gift for saying thank you, right? But if you were running for Congress, I could give you $5,800. If you're a committee member, then I want to be on your committee. I can give you and everyone on that committee $5,800. American public doesn't understand this. And if they would get off TikTok or Twitter and look up the FEC site, or better yet, secrets.org, publicsecret.org or opensecret.org, and you type in a name, if you typed in Vigilance Elite, and you ever donated to anything political, it will show up.
Really?
Every single cent in and out of my campaign account is completely documented. There's rules. But the American people won't bother to look at it to see that these folks are actually playing with this money and moving it around in pretty unethical ways, right? And you know, who is on the ethics committee? Members of the House, bro. It's like having the Foxes, you know, audit the Foxes.
So they've got everything. They just
It's
have
wrapped
everything
up.
locked down.
Absolutely locked down. But it's available to the American public if they would just go look. OpenSecrets.org.
OpenSecrets.org.
I'm fairly certain that's it. I don't want to put wrong information out because when people hear this, they're probably going to want to look it up and look up their representative and senators. Every cent, dude.
I didn't know that. I'm gonna go
And
look
it's
it
also
up.
on the FEC website, but Open Secrets breaks it down. And it's way more than just campaign contribution. Open Secrets. I think that's it.
OpenSecrets.org.
OpenSecrets.org. So like the first thing that pops up, National Rifle Association's profile summary in OpenSecrets.com. So for our 2A folks out there who would like to know more about how the NRA's money works and where their money's going, that's the first thing that pops up in my Google search.
And they break it down so that you can understand it.
Simple.
Interesting.
It's a
I'll
quick
be
and easy
looking at
search.
that
Because if
tonight.
you try the FEC or go on the congressional website, did you get out before the DTS travel computer system?
I got out in 2006.
Yeah, okay, so you missed it. It was back when we were still hand jamming. It's worse than that website. So all you military guys out there who know how horrible the DTS system is, FEC and the congressional websites are harder to navigate than that. And it is absolutely intentional. No doubt in my mind it's intentional. I mean, they're Congress. They could have the baddest website on the planet if they wanted to because, I don't know, they got trillions of dollars. But instead, they got this horrible website that the search doesn't work. It's also just complex the way they do business because like a bill could have 92 different amendments to it.
Yeah.
So to continue on back to the event that we were at, and this will give you an idea of the kind of just dirtbag Greg Murphy is. He turns around, grabs Lindy, and like looks at me and says, he goes, "We don't have to listen to this." And like starts to move away, and I was like, I was just gonna introduce you. So I turn around and start talking to this guy. Another dude behind me was like, that's weird. Not paying attention. Well, a Marine who I am friends with was at the event and stopped Greg to talk to him and asked him about why he wasn't supporting or helping in any way with the MARSOC 3 case. They're your constituents. Well, this gentleman is friends with those guys, a business owner, a veteran with cancer from the burn pits. And Greg basically sidestepped and said, "I don't have to talk to you people." Keeps going. So the next day is our district's Republican GOP, I forget the name, what they call it, the convention, right? It's the district convention. So I'm supposed to go there and speak and all that. We're candidates and this and that. But first thing in the morning, I get a phone call from the district director, district chairman. And I'm like, he says, "Hey, in light of, what happened last night, it's been requested that you not allowed to come to this event." And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, I heard about what happened last night." Sir?
What happened?
I do not know what you're talking about. He's like, "Well, the threats you made to Miss Lindy Robinson." What are you talking about? I'm going to need you to break it down. So Congressman Greg Murphy calls the district director and the chairman and says that me and two of my thug friends, exact words he used, described us as thugs, intimidated Lindy Robinson to the point in which she panically ran to her car and he escorted her so we wouldn't harm her in any way. Bro, Greg Murphy is a 150-pound piece of chewed bubble gum. Him, his entire staff, and everyone at this event could not stop the three that he was talking about from us hurting anyone there. Like, let me just be that straight. Like, Greg Murphy's not protecting anyone from guys like us. The dude's a spineless little whatever. And I'm like, wait, what? There were plenty of people there that saw what happened. The sheriff was there. He was in a room when it happened, right? And I'm like, well, if we assaulted this woman and scared her so much, why aren't they pressing charges? I tried calling the sheriff of the county. Of course, he wouldn't answer his phone. And I was pissed. I was like, this dude just accused me of assaulting a female in a public place. What in the fuck? And I'm just shaking my head. I'm just like, what the? Dude, the phone starts ringing off the hook. Man, hey, we heard that he said this. We heard he said that. Some supporters called and said, hey, come on to the convention, but we are going to make damn sure, because there's rumors that same big girl that I referenced, I wish I could remember that young lady's name. Insert, replace young lady with whatever word you like. They said that they heard that they were going to try to provoke me. The girls were. And Melissa's like, oh, really? And I'm like, I got this, honey. We'll be cool. You know, she's getting pissed, right? So we go, and yeah, man, we basically just isolated ourselves. Dude gets up there on stage and speaks and talks about how there's a cancer in this party, and there's thugs. Well, the thugs he's describing, one of them has cancer, you know? I mean, just this condescending. And I'm like, dude, last time I checked, I've served our nation much longer than you have in slightly more risky situations. I rate a tiny bit more respect out of you. And Congressman running it removed me personally from the situation and just look at my bio and my 201 file, my ERB or whatever. Dude, I'm a decorated special operations veteran. And that's how you think we should be treated? Fuck you, dude. So now, you know, I'm like, I'm pretty pissed. And again, at this point, I already know I'm not going to win. So, dude, I just crank it up. I changed my verbiage. I'm not playing nice anymore. Well, a good buddy of mine, a Marine who's a private investigator, on his own, goes down to the police department of the town, Havelock PD, because this event was at a city building. And Greg Murphy, man, he came out, the congressman came out and said things like, you know, I wish there were security cameras at that facility. You know, we could show you how, you know, Tony pursued her to the car and this and that. And how scared she was and how he saved her. Dumbass didn't know there were cameras there.
Oh, shit. Are you kidding me?
So they weren't inside, but they're in the foyer. And so he describes escorting her out, protecting her. She was upset all the way to her car.
Please tell me you rolled the camera feed.
My bud goes to Havelock PD. He's a private investigator, knows people. They happily give him the footage. And in the foyer of this city building, Lindy Robinson comes walking out on her phone. She stops and talks to people and walks out. She's on her phone. A few minutes later, the so-called representative walks out, talking and chatting to other people. Never happened. And he completely f***ing lied. And more so,
he
called me a liar.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
I asked Eli this too, 2 days ago. Can't you sue them for defamation?
Yeah, I could. It would probably cost more than you would ever get back. And there's not a lot of lawyers that do any type of cheap work for something they're not going to win money back on. Because you have to prove that what he did cost you. Did it cost me the election? No, I couldn't. And even if it did, it didn't prove anything. And luckily, a lot of people stood up and said it did not happen. I was there. It did not happen. But
can I get that footage to roll on this episode?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it was awesome because Greg Murphy went on a local radio show and was like, about me, he said, that guy can't tell the truth to save his life, blah, blah, blah. He beats women and blah, blah. I'm like, dude, I've never touched a woman. I have 2 sisters. What are you talking about? And calls me a liar, freaking just on and on. I'm like, so I took that footage and put it right up front of the foyer because he describes it. He's like, yeah, he comes up to us, and, and he describes the whole thing.
I turned around and those 3 guys were accosting Lindy, and Lindy was crying. My district director, I grabbed her by the shoulder. I said, we're not doing this, and marched this out. What am I going to do? Make that whole episode up? You guys know me. I don't do that kind of nonsense. And so, it's just utterly absurd. And yes, we actually asked for the interior video the next day so that we could prove what happened. I mean, they had to have several people at the doors to prevent these guys who were thugs from chasing Lindy and I.
And then the video shows it never happened. 2 very different stories. So we put it all together and launched it. Local media wouldn't touch it. When I brought it up to the local news radio guy, so news radio guy would put him on every week, let him talk live in the studio. Finally, a week out from the election, he let me talk for like 15 minutes, and his questions were, clearly questions that weren't set up to make me sound intelligent or anything like that. It was just bullshit. And yeah, man, I mean, he spent numerous hundreds of thousands of dollars in the last few weeks on TV ads and radio ads and stuff like that, where we had like, I don't know, 80 or 90 left. It's not winnable. And people ask, are you going to run again? Nah, I had my taste of it. The only way I would consider running again if all of a sudden there was $1.2 million in my campaign account. That's what it would take for me to beat that guy. And I would appreciate another opportunity, but it's just disgusting. Consultant, right? When my consultant told me that he couldn't continue with me challenging an incumbent. I said, okay, that's cool. So they had like my website login. They had my Gmail, G Suite, email account. They had it all. It took me 2.5 weeks from get my access to my email account. They held it hostage for 2 weeks.
Who did?
The consulting firm. And then I hear, so what do you think I did? I withheld their last payment. $5,000 a month is what I was paying them. And then I hear through the grapevine, and his name's Andy Yates. Andy Yates is telling people that I won't pay him. I stole $5,000 from him. So of course I sent him a text message. I was like, let me hear it one more time. You need to understand that this election is not more important than my principles, right? I care far less about winning this election than you people saying that I stole money or that I lied or that I beat a woman. Y'all need to understand that before the next time you open your mouths about me. I didn't hear anything else from him, and I got my access and email and all that stuff. But that's the nastiness, these spineless little beta cucks. That's the game they're playing, dude. It's disgusting. And so, like, that event, right? The Craven County chair of the Republican Party, her name was Sarah Benachek. Weak. She wasn't malicious necessarily. I don't think she was necessarily trying to side with him, but she got intimidated. The Republican Party is supposed to remain neutral in primaries. So I would send things to the GOP to post in both Lejeune and Craven counties. They wouldn't post it. And when Sarah posted some stuff of mine, she got intimidated so much by Greg Murphy's supporters that she deleted stuff. And I just told her, I was like, well, it's just disappointing that You just can't do something simple as remain neutral, that you're so easily intimidated. Now in Lejeune, that GOP, dude, they were directly going against me. Like the vice chair of Onslow County had Greg Murphy signs in her yard, right? And they're not, right? They're supposed to be neutral. She was on the radio talking bad about me, and ultimately they forced her to resign because it was that bad. But it was rumored that the chair and her didn't go along anyway, and he was just looking for a reason to get rid of her. He didn't do it because it was right. He did it because he needed to get rid of her. And, I'll tell you, just to combat any adversarial or counter to what I'm saying, people could say, well, you lost your bidder. Not at all. It was an overwhelmingly good experience. I met some amazing people. I have new friends because of it. I'm not bitter at all. In so many ways, my life is probably way better than if I had won. Just disgusting, dude. Republicans, at least the Democrats, are honest. Dude, check it out. North Carolina's, that district, one of the main, kind of influential dudes in the whole thing, dude spent time for raping a couple of teenage girls, one of which committed suicide afterwards. He was a police officer. Used his badge and his influence to have sex with these girls. That's rape. One of them later killed herself over the whole mess. And now he's like a prominent member of the Eastern North Carolina's GOP.
Are you serious?
I'm like, Republicans, what are you doing? How is this man even possibly allowed to step foot in any of these meetings? He can't even vote. Dude's a felon. How is he an influential member of the Republican Party? Well, he did his time.
Are you
Some
shitting
things
me?
are not. You don't get to rape,
Who's this?
go to prison. He's a big dude. He's like 6 foot something. Like I said, former police officer. I'd have
What's
to
his
look his name
position?
up. He's just involved, very involved in the 13th district, the GOP, in the Republican Party. And people allow him to be an influential member. And like I said, dude can't even vote in elections. He's a felon. So when people say Democrats are hypocrites, I'm like, there ain't no difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. Don't kid yourselves. Do not kid yourselves. They're slimy. Like I said,
Political prostitutes.
opportunists.
Somebody said that term, stuck with me ever since, because that's what they are.
It's gross, dude.
And I don't know how we get this back. I
Well,
really don't.
so I had a really awesome oppositional research guy, former counter intel guy from the agency, former ranger. Man, he was just vicious. Like, he went and did a background check on me in Sampson County. And the lady basically logged in access to the computer and said, okay, cool, I'm going to go get a coffee, whatever you want. He's got access to the entire criminal background systems check. So he runs a check on me, runs a check on a couple of other people who are involved in this whole mess. He just wanted to see what pops up on me. But, man, he was just vicious, man. He could get in and get all kinds of information. He's a researcher. Amazing dude. Currently in law school. He's going to be a vicious lawyer. So in his research, Congressman Greg Murphy had a beach house on Emerald Isle, the city of Emerald Isle, which is one of the Outer Banks. Atlantic Beach, Emerald Isle, it's all on the same island, just north of Camp Lejeune. Well, after the hurricane, Emerald Isle got, if I remember correctly, like $58 million. The city of Emerald Isle, Greg Murphy leveraged and got him $58 million. Onslow County got like $16 million. The county, not a city, Pamlico County got like $8 million. Poorest county in the district, second poorest county in the district, got nothing. That's the county I'm from, where I grew up. It was very disproportionate. The city got 58 for this new beach reconstruction project, where basically they're going to pump sand to rebuild the beach, which is also where one of 3 of his beach houses sits. A beach house that in 1997, he paid $700,000 for. And after that project came up, sold it for $3.49 million. We sent it to every news media outlet, to include Fox News, to include Carl Higbee at Newsmax. Nothing. This young lady who is a guest on Newsmax, on Carl's show and stuff. And I had met Carl. I worked out with Carl Higbee up in Connecticut a long time ago. We had a mutual friend. I knew the dude. Seemed like a nice guy. And she was like, yeah, I'm going to get you on with Carl. Nah, man. Nothing. You know, there were 8 Green Berets and 5 or 6 SEALs running. And, of course, Eli, Zinke, and Van Orden all won. None of the GBs had any support. What's that?
Luttrell.
Oh, and Luttrell. That's right. I don't know why I always forget about him. Yeah, he had a lot of support from Crenshaw. The rest of us, I mean, we were straight up told Kevin McCarthy does not want guys like you in Congress.
No shit.
Doesn't want us there. Why? Because they know damn well we'll stand up to him.
Yeah.
Right? They know damn well we're not doing it for the money because we served our entire lives for military pay. They know, and they don't want us there. And what's worse is the American public is too fucking lazy to do their research. Less than 20% of the voters in our district, registered Republican voters, bothered to vote in our primary.
Are you serious?
I got 10 to 20% of only just under 20%.
Damn, man.
How do you fix that, man? You know, everybody's like, oh, it's lost. You know, some people are even talking Civil War and shit. And I'm like, maybe we should just try the voting thing before we say voting doesn't work.
Yeah.
But let's face it, man, the good American family, they're taking their kids to soccer practice. They're taking their kids to the beach, or they're doing whatever. They're doing family stuff, and they're not involved. If that doesn't change, it's not going to get better. And I don't even know if it's going to get any better. I mean, the fact that, like...
It's not looking likely.
No.
You know, it just...
For me, the nail in the coffin was McCarthy being voted in as Speaker.
I mean, you're starting to see people leave the country, you know.
Spooky, man. But
Powerful people.
I mean...
They're leaving.
Yeah. It's bad, man. And you know, I listen to some of these politicians, and I'm doing it less and less. I've unfollowed. And, you know, people are like, but we need guys like you. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I need $1.5 million to get up there. Got any rich friends? Oh, no, because those rich people already have a congressman.
Yep.
Why do you think rich conservatives aren't going to give to someone like me? Because they already own
right.
Greg Murphy.
Yep.
Because they already own... So how am I going to get funds? I did have the Club for Growth. They wanted to support me, but they said, hey, man, straight up, 6 weeks till your election, man, you're a waste of money. I went, that's fair. I understand. You know? Because the guy straight up told me, he's like, it would take $3 million to get you anywhere near winning. He's like, and we ain't got that. He's like, you're not a $3 million district, bro. And to put it in perspective, right? So Greg Murphy wins the primary, and now he's going up against a very conservative black woman that's a Democrat, a lady named Miss Barbara Gaskins. And I gave her everything that we had on Greg Murphy. I gave a Democrat because she's a better person than he is. And I would take good people who lean a slightly left than completely corrupt, lying-ass conservatives who aren't conservative. Greg Murphy, his daughter despises him. She posted something one time about how big of a dirtbag was, that when she was in college, he forced her to get an abortion. If you look at his campaign in opensecrets.org, you'll see organizations like the American Medical Association. And you might say, well, that makes sense. He's a doctor. The American Medical Association, take a moment and find out its stance on abortion. The American Medical Association is not just pro-choice, it's pro-abortion. His other campaign contributions, Big Pharma, some real estate people from Emerald Isle. Bro, bought and paid for.
Yeah.
Spineless, bought and paid for. And like I said, I really haven't spoken much about it. It's been just over a year since the end of that primary. And the reason I didn't want people to accuse me of being bitter. I'm not a bitter person. I'm actually really happy, and things are going great for me. But here's the truth. Like I said, I really haven't put it out there. When we set this up, I was like, I think maybe that's when I really come out. Same with Ibogaine. I wasn't certain about putting much of it out there, just because, but yeah.
Well, knowing what you know now about politics and the Uniparty and how many of these people are bought and paid for, what do you think the answer is?
There's no doubt in my mind that if half the American people would rally, we can change things. Not even half. You know what? Screw it. I'll call it at 12 to 15% of the American citizens rallied. And I don't care if you're left, right, because it doesn't matter anymore. Right?
Yeah.
We are literally fighting for the survival of the place to be left or right. And I remember when socialists, or not socialists, slightly left-leaning people weren't people I hated, weren't people I had to hate, right? Nowadays, if I disagree with you on, would you rather wear, I don't know, tennis shoes or boots? Well, now we got to hate each other.
Yeah.
Because I decided to wear boots today instead of tennis shoes, so I got to hate you now. And they've done this, man. It's theatrics. It's bullshit. It's smoke and mirrors, man. I don't have to hate people that I disagree with. I don't hate anybody. I mean, I got a couple of people I'd like an opportunity to hang out with in an alley for a few minutes, but I don't hate them. I don't have hate in my heart, dude. I don't know that I ever have. I mean, I've had times where like I said, I wanted to get back to Iraq and settle some scores, but enough with this hating each other, man.
Yeah.
We're not going to have a country where you can be liberal or you can be a Christian, where that country's going away if we don't get together and fix it and take that power back from these bought and paid for so-called representatives.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Now, if that doesn't happen, there's no doubt that our trajectory is taking us, because sooner or later, conservatives are going to get fed up. They keep pressing people's kids, right? Like, why did they stop with the COVID stuff? Because people had enough. People were starting to revolt against the whole mandates and their children and the school boards and all that. People were starting to lose their shit. They were tired of it.
Yeah.
So they backed off. Now they're like, oh, we didn't mandate anything. What? We're just forgiving them, right? When was the last time you heard about any of our Republican representatives doing anything to punish all the people that put this complete lie of the pandemic and the complete lie of the vaccine? No one. There is no one going to be held accountable for that stuff unless the American people do it, and we're not going to.
No one's ever held accountable in government.
No.
Never.
Until, revolution happens. And I don't want that, dude. My niece, she's a beautiful young lady. She doesn't know what it's like not to have Wi-Fi, bro.
Yeah.
right? She's spending her entire life, right? By the time she was flying, there was Wi-Fi on airplanes, right? And I don't want that young lady who has never missed a meal, who's lived a nice life because my older sister's done well for herself. I do not want my niece to know what war looks like. War in America, dude, when white people start killing white people, it's ugly. Right? Look throughout world history, man. You know, and I say that because let's face it, and it's not a racist thing, but when the country comes to tips, it's going to be mostly a country against a bunch of rich white dudes. You know, people are fed up, and that's scary. War here is scary. I like air conditioning. As much as I like being outside, when I'm inside, I like to be comfortable. I like hot water. I like the Wi-Fi. I like cell service. And all that stuff's the first thing that goes away when this country collapses. And we have enemies other than ourselves, man. Because we're too stupid to make allies out of Russia and China. We want to fight them.
Well, we kind of went over this at the beginning, you know. Maybe we're not the good guys we thought we were.
I think we are. And I think there's probably 2 dudes somewhere in Russia and probably 2 dudes somewhere in China that are good guys too. And they're probably also tired of the bullshit that their governments are doing.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't think people in general are necessarily evil. But when they get together and you get money involved and the government involved, because the government makes larceny legal.
Do you think this is beyond politics? Do you think any of this goes into... I've been hearing a lot about spiritual warfare.
Maybe so. Good versus evil. Are we there? At some levels, certainly. Certainly, at some levels. I mean, we are... I remember, right? Like, I remember my aunts and my grandma and all them, like, freaking out over a Motley Crue and Poison and, you know, the 80s rock bands, and they had crazy hair. You know, they're dressing up like girls. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Motley Crue wasn't gay. Like, them dudes they might have had some teasing in their hair and stuff, but those rock bands, you know, they were probably mostly heterosexual, mostly. They might have done some other crazy shit. But remember in the 80s, man, and then gangster rap happened. And, oh, my God, this is horrible. It's Satan. You know, I think that was just the beginning of it. And I'm not saying that, like, you know, Motley Crue and those dudes were evil or anything, but that was the perception of, you know, the generation ahead of us. That, oh, my God, you know, Alice Cooper. I mean, these people are evil, right? And clearly now Alice is a Christian or whatever. But that stuff that was happening in the 80s, that was people having a good time because the economy was just crushing it. What's happening now? We've got people trying to condone the behavior of child rape. And there is no such thing as children consenting. Children cannot consent. Children cannot make decisions that we're saying that they can't. It was just Melissa and I were talking. There was
A child can't even make the decision if he or she wants to live with whichever parent
Right.
when there's a divorce.
But you're saying they can consent to sex or consent to
dismembering themselves.
Melissa was talking about
Can't even choose who you want to live with, mom or dad. Court's got to decide.
Right.
But you want to whack your junk off? You want to rip your ovaries out? You can do that.
You can do that.
You want to take puberty blockers? You can do that.
This woman that Melissa was
Actually,
talking about
in Washington, the state can confiscate your kid.
Because you won't let them have that shit.
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
Dude,
And
that is evil.
It's spreading.
Evil.
And that's where I'm getting. You're starting to see this push happen. It's being pushed. Push. It's spreading. It's moving into Colorado. It's moving into California. It's moving into, I think it's Minnesota. You know, this is all, it's happening fast. It's coming quick.
This woman that Melissa was talking about having horrible menstruational periods, mid-20s, late 20s maybe, made the decision she does not want to have kids, went to her doctor and asked to have a hysterectomy. And they said no, because one day you might change your mind and you want to have babies. This is a almost 30-year-old woman, an adult, legal adult, cannot make that decision for herself. But if she went back or went to a different doctor and said, hey, I'm a dude, we're going to need a hysterectomy, they'd be like, cool. Knock that right out for you.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I wish I had the answer. Like, to me, yeah, I have the answers, but I have no viable way of executing it. I have no way of rallying that type of people. I don't have the means of an Elon Musk, and that's what you need to fight this type of war. It's money. And how do you compete with the Soroses and the Bezoses and the conservative billionaires aren't funding social projects, right? They're paying very specific money to get what they want to further their business because they're practical. That's why they own congressmen and senators. And I mean, we see it all the time. There's like at least 10 different people putting out information every day on their insider trading. And they're not even hiding it anymore.
Yeah.
They don't care what we think.
Yeah. Part of me thinks it's unfixable. We're so divided now. There's so much hate in the air that I don't think you can fix it with politics. I think the only way that you can start waking people up is by bringing them to something that this country was founded on, and that's God. And hope that people bring their morals back to that.
How many different examples are there that when cultures turn their back on God, they meet their demise? And I almost don't believe, I'm not certain that it's like God says, you know what, when they reach this point, I'm going to crush them. I mean, in some teaching in the Bibles, there's a couple different times, Sodom and Gomorrah, right? He basically said, get out, I'm burning this place. But in other societies, whatever, I think he just lets us do that free will thing. He just lets us do. And here we are. And there's only, like you said, without turning back and following his ways. I've got some agnostic and atheist friends. And we all agree that the Ten Commandments is a pretty decent document. It's like, if we just kind of took it out of the Bible and I showed it to you, would you not agree that the Ten Commandments is a pretty decent way to treat each other? And they're like, well, yeah, of course. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not, covet thy neighbor's wife. I mean, it was basic don't do's, It transcends whatever religion or lack of religion you have. Like, good people know what goodness is.
Yeah.
But good people mind their own business. And that's why we're here. That is why we're here. And let's face it, man. I mean, we see it like in the, the tactical 2A, whatever group, enthusiasts. I don't want to call it a community because it ain't. You got all these influencer types who are constantly posting about Second Amendment issues. They won't put their money where their mouth is. If it's not going to benefit them, there is no leadership to be had in the 2A community because all those influencers out there care way more about their followings and the clicks and the likes and their promotion of their business under the ruse of, I'm a Second Amendment supporter. And I'm like, you might be a Second Amendment supporter, but don't talk to me about truly being in the fight. I ran for Congress. You know what I mean? And it wasn't fun. I mean, again, lots of good lessons. But you're talking about my life for over 6 months was leave my house at 6 a.m, and maybe get back before midnight. We spent over $50,000 of our own money. Hell, I had a $10,000 KX450 that I just bought, and I raffled it off. I donated that, and that's not even included in the $50,000. You know, I had as much as I could put at stake. And I had a couple people, oh, that's all you're putting in? I'm like, I'm not rich, dude. That's why you should vote for me, because I'm not a rich white dude. You know, I'm not in it for the money. I don't care. I swore that I would only do 2 terms. Still wasn't enough. I promised $50,000 and that I would only do 2 terms. You know?
Yeah.
And it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to get people off their asses to go vote. I don't know, bro. If we could do that, like I said, I think if we could get 12 to 20% of Americans off their asses. But you know what? It's like rallies, right? Like Democrats, man, they'll rally in a second. How many rallies have there been on Capitol Hill since January 6th? Only a couple. And they weren't even at the Capitol. They were at the park. I went to one of the first ones, and that was the defeat the mandate. There weren't very many people there. There wasn't any representatives there. It's just sad, but they knew what they were doing on January 6th. You know, they made everyone afraid to protest. It's our TM, how do you say it? Tiananmen Square. Nope. Didn't run over anybody with a tank. They damn sure shut down public protests. Now everyone's afraid to go protest on Capitol Hill because they can get thrown in jail. No due process. It was brilliant. They're doing a good job at what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's the scary part. They're doing it right in front of our faces, and we're not doing anything about it. So we're going to get some more chickens and continue to mind my own damn business. When everyone's ready to take whatever course of action to fix this stuff, give me a call. I'm ready. Until then, I'm going to go back to minding my own business like everybody else. And I hate it. I'm not a politician, man. I mean, clearly. Like I said, I'd just as soon fist fight you than argue with you about anything stupid. You know what I mean? And it's not personal, right? Like, it's not, I'm a violent person. It's like, I just don't like arguing. So yeah, I don't know how much fun we would have on Capitol Hill. I can only imagine Eli going, dude, stop. Like, you can't tell everyone. You know, I was joking that, you know, maybe we could make C-SPAN great again. Let's tune into C-SPAN and see who's Tony's telling off today.
Well, we got to leave them with something positive before we wrap this up, you know?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know what that is, but I think...
You know what, man? America's still got a lot of amazing people. Everywhere I go, man, I meet cool people. I mean, you know, the internet's horrible, blah, blah. If it wasn't for the internet, I wouldn't have met you. You know, I've made amazing networks and contacts over the internet. I have awesome friends. I don't think America's lost, man, but she may have to do some remodeling.
Yeah.
She may need some restructuring.
There's definitely some of that. You know,
And I'll tell you, man, hypothetically speaking, and I promise you I am not advocating for any type of insurrection or civil. It wouldn't be an insurrection. It would be a civil war. Insurrection would be treasonous. And when good people stand up against their government, that is not what it is. It's not an insurrection. It's a revolution, a revolt, whatever you want to call it. On the upside, if we ever get there, you know how easy it is going to be to flip them dudes right out of their chairs? Fat bastards. They're not going to fight. I do worry about our military and our police. Good people follow orders, man, and that's scary. Good people follow orders. I mean, I don't know. But on the positive side, man, freaking everything that we've talked about before the congressional run, it's all good stuff, man. We've got, America's still raising some good boys and some good girls. I live in the middle of nowhere, rural North Carolina again, and I look around and I'm like, these are good people, and sooner or later they're going to get tired of it. So I don't think it's completely dismal. I mean, if we only look at what we see on these things, it would be easy to assume that everything's dismal and everything's dark. But I'll tell you, it's not 100%. Like I said, we're continuing to build networks of good people. You're doing amazing shit, It's not a loss. And here's an example. I grew up in Stonewall, North Carolina, United Methodist Church. A few months ago, the members of that church, I'm a member of it, but I wasn't consulted. And I still asked my aunt why, but it was basically like you had to be there to vote. So the United Methodist Church is a large organization. And they decided they gave thumbs up to same-sex marriage. They gave thumbs up to a lot of things that just the Bible doesn't support. And my church, along with many other Methodist churches, have decided to leave the United Methodist Church. I'm so proud of them. They stuck to their beliefs, right? They stuck to their beliefs, and they sat down, and it wasn't an easy process. They voted to leave the United Methodist Church, and now they are the Stonewall Methodist Church. They stuck, and people left, especially young people, and they already had such a low membership, dude. But people are sticking to their principles, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And now, to clarify, it's not banning gay people or homosexuals from the church. That is not what they were doing. It was they did not want to accept gay marriage. They would not perform gay marriages in their church because the Bible clearly states marriage is between a man and a woman and God. And so they said, hey, that's where we're drawing the line. And so I'm proud of them. I'm not proud of them because they're doing something that's against the gay community. It's not the case. My gay friends are an amazing bunch of dudes. Yes, I have gay friends, man. They're cool dudes. So people are sticking to their guns, trying to. So I think there's still some type of glimmer of hope. I don't know.
Well,
it's going to be an interesting next 2 decades.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting next 2 decades. But man, I want to wrap this up, and I just want to say thank you, man, for coming out.
No way, bro. Thank you.
And
yeah,
sharing your experience from childhood all the way up to present day, and if there's your psychedelic experience, I mean, that's going to help a lot of people. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, man. No, if we're going to be mentors and leaders for this next generation of young men, and they're to have, let's face it, fathers, our generation, man, has done a pretty bad job at raising the next generation. But you're talking about the opportunity for that pendulum to swing from all this craziness to this next generation being one of the most conservative generations America's ever seen. And there's social scientists predicting that, even liberal ones, and they're scared. So you got to keep doing what you're doing. And you've had, I was joking, and I've joked with my other buddies. I'm like, man, I can't believe I'm having to follow some of his guests.
Dude.
You've had some amazing people sharing amazing experiences. Don't stop.
You are one of those amazing guests. So please, you deserve every minute you've sat in that chair, man. And it was a real honor to interview you.
Pleasure was mine, brother.
Thank you.
Pleasure was mine.
Hey everybody, I'm Shawn Ryan. Click here to subscribe to the Shawn Ryan Show YouTube channel for the hottest and most compelling interviews that you will not see anywhere else. I've also made a playlist of all the previous SRS episodes so they're easy to find. You can find that right here.